who are players on Wichita State to pay attention to?
Well, preseason conference player of the year. How about let's start in there. Tyson Etienne, dynamic, explosive guard, could beat you a number of ways. 3-point line, mid-range rim, 3-level score. Dexter Dennis has always been one of my favorite players in the league. Just quietly efficient, can make shots, can score it. Outstanding offensive rebounder, athletic, tough kid. Big Dexter Dennis fan. Udezi, who I think has really carved a nice career out for himself. Hard-nosed, tough, really gets after it, rebounding both ends. Really developed a really good inside game. Etienne obviously is our go-to guy, but this Cancel kid is talented as anybody. We lost to them there last year. He really played well. Cancel's, he doesn't start, but he's a starter. So I think those are the main guys. But they got a good team, so a lot of guys contribute.
Go to Greg Bailey with KTRK. Greg, please go ahead, sir.
Hey, Kelvin, Kyler was asked about, his physical status after the USF game. He said he's not 100%, but it just means the world to him to get out there and play for his team and his teammates. Well, what does that kind of show you about what he's bringing to you when you're shorthanded, and how important is it to have that kind of leadership step up for you?
Well, that's huge, Greg. We're walking a little bit of a tightrope here, without much of a safety net under it. We played a road game without any subs at the guard spot. Poor Jamal had to play 40 minutes, and I think Kyler's probably reacting to that. We just needed another body. It's hard to play that way. It's just, especially for 40 minutes and try to win the game. But Kyler's bought in. Just because you take a good player doesn't mean he's a good player for you. That's why I think you really have to evaluate when you take transfers, the kind of kid they are, the character they have. You're almost doing a background check. People that have no idea what coaching is just look at numbers and height and weight and think they can play. It has nothing to do with it. Kyler comes from a really good family. Love his mom and dad. Competitor, warrior, came from a winning program, played for a great coach. But that doesn't mean he was going to buy in. And I think it took him a while, to adjust. Not that he wasn't trying to buy in, but, the guys that were already here, Marcus and Jamal and Tremont, those guys just way ahead of him because they knew everything we were doing. If I caught up something terminology wise, those guys just reacted. Whereas Kyler, we had to stop and teach him how to play within our schemes and our system and all that stuff. But, you can tell he's getting comfortable because he's showing you the things he's doing in games, what we see him doing practice now. But, that was huge for him to come back. We need the bodies.
Thank you, Greg. We'll go to James Mueller with the Cougar. James, go ahead with a question for Coach Sampson.
Yeah, Kelvin, now that Emmanuel's been with the program a couple of weeks, I'm just curious sort of what you've seen from him and what it's like to have a guy, come in and enroll and be able to, just get acclimated to the program, go through things at practice and stuff, and just sort of see what the culture is out here.
Yeah. Well, Caleb Mills did it. I've seen nothing from Emmanuel. He spends all his time in the weight room with John Houston, and he does some drills with us. But Um, he's a long way from contributing in practice.
We'll go to Adam Winkler with KTRK. Adam, please go ahead with your question.
Kelvin, I know it's not your first time to do this, but I want to ask you about the literacy game. You and your program have done so much for this community in terms of winning games and uniting folks. But the fact that you're raising money for, kindergarten through third grade kids to help them truly succeed in life and set them up for success, why is it important for you to have a role in that and do this year after year?
When we do our night before film session at my house, that was born out of, I didn't want to miss reading a bedtime story of Kelvin and Lauren when they were little. And they loved that. And I loved it. Sometimes I would alternate from telling them a story, just make up a story, to reading books for them. And then I carried that over to, Washington State. Pullman, Washington is not a really big town. It's a really small college town. So we made it a goal of ours to take our kids to read in all those, elementary schools, at least once or twice a year. We'd ask the teachers to pick out books. So as soon as we walk in, I would always go take an assistant, 2 or 3 players, and they'd have books laid out for us, everything from, for the little kids, to, 4th, 5th graders. And they loved it. But I always thought it sent a great message to our team about giving back. But, I even came up with a little saying that I used to all those kids, and I think it went, reading is to the mind as exercise is to the body. And talk to them about how enjoyable reading is. And, as you prepare for the next grade, whether it's 5th to 6th, 7th, 8th, whatever, the words you learn, you're in a conversation, you hear a word that I just read a book and I saw that word, I heard that word, and I know what it means. Just a simple, something that you can get out of just reading, as simple as that. When I was growing up, I read, what they call comic books, but I don't know why we called it this, but when I was a little boy, we called them funny books. They were comic books, and I love all the Westerns. And then I got into Superman and Batman, the Cisco Kid, Billy the Kid, Lone Ranger. I just love reading those. I work at my grandfather's little country, grocery store, and when we're a lot of people, I'd run around to the drugstore and pick a funny book and start reading it. Of course, the owner would come and say if I wasn't going to buy that funny book, I had to put it back. So he'd run me out. I'd go back to my grandfather's store. I didn't have the 12 cents to buy it. I had to wait till I got paid, which was usually late. I don't remember getting paid on time very much from my grandfather. But reading is something I enjoy. It's a passion of mine. I love reading. Just about anything. But being able to do something like this, I just think is great. Makes our kid understand the importance of being role models and taking that seriously. And it's an honor to be able to do things like this. Along the way in your journey as a student athlete, you look back and say, you know what? That was a good thing I did. There's a lot of young kids that look up to these kids, and when they can see them outside the court, they realize that they're a lot like them.
Thank you, Adam. We'll go to Joseph Duarte, please. Joseph, go ahead.
Kelvin, well, first of all, good morning. How's Reggie doing and sort of progressing with the hand? Have you been able to, just based on what Josh is doing, getting him, those restful moments that you were hoping to get as much as you can?
Yeah, well, I don't ever look at stat sheets during a game. The assistant coaches, you'll see them, staring at that stat sheet. I never look at the stat sheet during the game. So I wasn't aware of Josh's numbers the other night. You know, I remember taking him out and didn't put him in for so long. But the reason he didn't go back in was we were starting to get separation with Reggie on the floor. There was about a 6-week stretch there before Alabama. I don't remember which game it was. I sat him down, but he was playing with one hand, literally. You know, I mean, his hand looked like Mike Curtis, who used to be the middle linebacker for the Baltimore Colts when Johnny Unitas, Tom Maddie, John Mackey, all those guys, Willie Richardson, all those guys were playing for the Colts back then. But those guys would have a broken hand and just wrap it, look like their hand was a club. I kind of thought that's what Reggie's hand was like. And when you go for a rebound, he would go with one, hold his hand in and try to grab it with one. So, and forget scoring. You know, we couldn't throw the ball to him for a long time, but he's just now getting where he can use the second hand. If you notice against Temple, second half, he was getting a lot of two-handed offensive rebounds. He's just now getting back to that. When he got hurt, John thought he had broken his knuckle, but I think if he get hit, he'd get better and go back to the pain, and he'd get hurt. He kept regressing, but now he's progressing. He's getting better. And he and Josh are a good 2-man tandem for us there at the 5 spot.
All right. I don't see any more questions here and their hands raised. Everybody else, everybody good for Coach? We'll go back to Chris Gardner. We've got time for a couple more here, and then Coach will do the TV section. Chris, go ahead with a question.
Coach, is it important to you, or how important is it to be efficient offensively and defensively? I think during the broadcast against USF, they announced that you and Baylor were like one of the few teams in the country to be top 10 in both offensive and defensive efficiency. Is that important to you?
How long have you been following that, Chris?
Efficiency number, not too much.
We never ever, we track that our way. You know, we've been top 25, I think, for years. Last year, we make it a goal to be top 20 in the nation at both ends. And we have to, and as a team, you figure out how can we do that? Defensively, here's how we do it. You know, there's what we emphasize. And if we're good in these areas, then our defensive efficiency rating will be good. And then offensively for us, being able to be efficient when we don't make baskets. You know, not every team is built to win unless you make. You know, we're built to win if we don't make shots, which is why the offensive rebounding component is so important, for us. But we track that efficiency. There's a correlation between offense and defensive efficiency and winning.
All right. Thank you. We'll go back to Joseph Darte, and then after that I have time for one more question. Joseph, go ahead, please.
Kelvin, I wanted to follow up on something you were asked the other day about timeouts. And I was wondering, in relation to Jamal, and maybe this isn't necessarily just about timeouts, but getting him breaks or rest or breather when you can. Have you noticed, after these couple games, how he's responded in practice, in terms of his legs or just tiredness, fatigue? And is there, with Tyler being back, is there a way that, you can move forward and how you're going to approach his minutes?
Yeah, I don't have a stat sheet in front of me. Well, there's one. Let me see if it has. No, that's not stat sheet. I don't remember how many minutes he played against South Florida. I know he played 40 against Temple. Actually, I took him out against South Florida because he wasn't playing with any energy. We got down 11-2 in that game, and he looked dead leggish. But I had sub for him. Kyler didn't come back. Would have probably had to go zone or, you navigate games. Every game's different. But, as far as practicing between games, we don't practice in between games this week. I mean, this has been, you think about it, last Saturday we flew from Houston to Philadelphia, played Sunday after the game, flew back from Philadelphia to Houston, was here Monday. Tuesday we flew from Houston to Tampa. After the game, Wednesday night, we flew from Tampa back to Houston. We got back about 1:30 in the morning. So yesterday was the day after. Today's the day before. We play 11 o'clock in the morning. So when you said, how's it been in practice? What practice? We haven't practiced. We don't have any bodies. It's in about 2 weeks, people's going to forget that we lost 4 starters from last year's Final Four team. We lost Marcus and Jamal, and they want to know what's wrong with our team. Why aren't we winning every game? Why aren't you blowing everybody out? It's amazing how people forget your situation. We live it every day. It affects how we practice. It affects how we approach just about everything we do. We literally have 4 guards in our program, and we just got the 4th one back. Kyler didn't practice. You know what? I take that back. The night before we played South Florida was when I found out he could play. If you'd asked me before we got on the plane to go to Tampa, I would have said Kyler's not going to play. I think I actually said that actually. So I didn't find out he was going to play until, our court time was 6 to 8 or 6:30, 8:30. So about 7 o'clock, I kind of meandered over toward him and said, how's the ankle feeling? He said, I think I'm going to try to give it a go. And I said, okay. So, but, because our situation's so precarious, so tight ropish, we have to be real careful about how much contact stuff we can be. Because we're an injury away from, Ryan Elvin playing 40 minutes a game.
Thank you, Joseph. The last question here for the group. We'll go to Chris Gardner, please. Chris, go ahead.
You say all that. How beneficial were these days off between games after tomorrow's game against Wichita State before the next game against Tulsa?
Beneficial?
Yes, sir.
Well, I mean, this has been a hard week. Saturday, Sunday, Philadelphia, Tuesday, Wednesday, Tampa, and then 11 o'clock game Saturday morning. Turnaround for each game with roster being as it is in the backcourt, makes it tough. So, we didn't even tape yesterday. I mean, we got back to 1 o'clock in the morning. Our kids probably didn't get back to their rooms and get to sleep till after 2. So, it make a lot of sense to, they spent most of their time in the training room. Jamal tweaked his knee. Ramon hurt his knee. Kyler's ankle, Reggie's hand. People forget, Fabian's coming off an ACL that requires daily treatment. So, I mean, we're the walking wounded, man. I mean, it's very precarious, what our situation is right now. So not a lot of practice. We're having to watch a lot of film and walk through things. I put a couple of baseline out of bounds plays in for USF, and lo and behold, we scored on them, and we didn't even go live. We just actually drew them up, and they executed them, and we scored. So we're just going. That's it's hit or miss with us. That's why if we can get through tomorrow, I can give our guys multiple days off. Next week doesn't mean we can start back practicing. We have nobody to practice with. We don't have the bodies. But that's not unique to me or, Tim Jankovic been going through that for years at SMU. Limited numbers. Problem with injuries is practice. You don't have bodies to practice against. It's not like you can grab a manager, grab an assistant, throw them in there. I'd like to think our players would dominate those guys pretty good. So I don't know how much they can help us in practice. I've watched our managers play. I would sub in for half of them. So practice is going to be real high quality. So, but it is what it is, it is what it is, we're just going to take what we have with what we have, where we're at, and do the best we can with it.